Hi everyone, this is Jen here, and welcome back to the Jenny Page Pod, the podcast where I, Jen, talk about all the topics that I love, including music, TV, movies, and tons of other media. And guys, I sincerely apologize. Oh my goodness. I really made a promise last episode that it would not take this long for me to come out with another one. And let's just say that didn't happen. I know it's been almost a year since my last episode, and for that, I sincerely apologize. Life has been a whirlwind of events. I am a very busy individual, and let's just say I kind of forgot about the existence of this thing. But you know what? As time went on, I did realize that I felt its absence and how much I love talking to you guys. I love talking in front of a mic. I could go for hours and hours talking about the things I love. And some recent events kind of made me feel, you know what? I'm going to start this up again. I don't know how often I'm going to be doing this, but I feel like I shouldn't really force myself to do it. It should be something that I want to do at my own pace. And I am so happy to be back. It's going to be a very cool conversation today about something that I really love and that has really personally affected me in a great way recently. So yeah, that is I am still so awkward. I'm sorry. Oh my god. If I stutter and if I have some really weird pauses, I am sorry. I keep apologizing. I don't know why. I'm such an apologetic machine. I don't know why. I'm just like that. I'm still not the best talker. Even when I want to get my thoughts out, sometimes my mind is running quicker than my mouth. So if there's any awkward moments, try not to cringe. But anyway, nothing has changed. Let's be real. If you listen to my other two episodes, they are an absolute cringe fest. But besides that point, let's get started with what I'm going to talk about today. And this topic has been something that has greatly affected me in such an amazing way. It has honestly made everything feel just a little bit happier. If you know anything about me in any sort of fashion, whether you follow me on socials, whether you know me personally, whether you are subscribed to my YouTube channel, you know that I love a specific music artist a lot. And if you know that, congratulations. I think I talk about them too much. I mean, a fan of this artist will talk about them all the time. I mean, how can you not? And this artist, they're a small little indie group from South Korea. They're called BTS. You might have heard of them. They're just kind of starting up. Please support them. Just kidding. If you don't know who BTS is at this point, what are you doing? Even if you absolutely loathe them, you still know who they are. And I love BTS. They are probably one of my all-time, if not the all-time favorite artists of mine. They mean a ton to me. I've been a fan for a few years now, and they are just incredible in my opinion. What they do musically, artistically, their personalities, how genuine they are, their connection with the fans, everything related to them, I think is just excellent. It's unique, and it's something that I feel like more people should know about. Yes, they are extremely popular, but I feel like people still tend to overlook them and judge them based on stereotypes, based on preconceived notions. This is not an episode where I'm going to convince you to like BTS. I might do that in the future, but I'm just giving a little intro as to how I feel about them and my true connection to them. I mean, if you really don't know who they are probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest artists to ever come out of South Korea. They started out pretty small. They started out from a small company. And usually in the K-pop industry, when you're in a small company, it doesn't spell good news for you. Unfortunately, because of lack of funds, connections, a lot of artists tend to squander, they tend to fall apart, and they tend to flop. Well, this didn't happen to BTS, surprisingly. They were able to garner natural fan demand from being on social media. And of course, because of their music is filled with deep messages. The members are heavily involved in either the writing, production, creation of their music, and because of that, and probably many other reasons that no one will ever be able to figure out or pinpoint, they grew massively successful, and they have changed music forever. They have spread Korean culture around the world. They have changed people's opinions about music in a foreign language, about liking people that are maybe outside of their comfort zone. I mean, that happened to me. And because of that, they are truly once-in-a-generation artists. They are really, even like I said, even if you're not a fan of them, if you don't like their music, if you don't like them, you cannot deny the impact of what they've done to pop culture and music around the world. It's undeniable. And why am I talking about this? This directly connects to the topic of today's episode, and that's the fact that if you know anything about BTS, over the past few years in the news, you probably heard that they're serving in the military. If you don't know, in South Korea, there is mandatory military service for all able-bodied men from the ages of 18 to 30. And it's by law, you have to enlist for at least 18 months. It differs based on what branch of the military you're doing, or if you're doing supplemental service, which isn't on the front lines, it's not active duty. You might be doing a varying length, but mostly it's between like 18 months to like maybe 2 years. So like I said, all men have to enlist. BTS are South Korean citizens, so by law, they would have to enlist at some point. And this has been a topic that has been talked about a lot because of their huge standing, because of how successful they've been for South Korea, whether it's just spreading culture, South Korean culture, language, and of course music. And let's not lie, a lot of people care about that money. They've generated so much money for South Korea, it's honestly absurd. They've honestly generated more money than some big South Korean corporations, which is hard to believe. And I still remember reading an article that mentioned that BTS generated more income for the South Korean economy than the Pyeongchang Olympics, the Winter Olympics that happened in 2018. Isn't that wild? They generated more money than the frickin' Olympics. That's crazy. But military enlistment for them has been a topic of discussion because a lot of people were debating whether they should be exempt or not. And why this is important is because there really, before this, hasn't really been any precedent to let pop stars specifically get exempted. There are some precedents for athletes and classical musicians. For example, you've probably heard of the famous South Korean soccer player, Son Heung-min. He's currently on Tottenham Hotspur. He's a really, really incredible soccer player. I've seen him play on TV before. He's really, anyway, this is not about him. I could talk about Sonny for hours and hours. I'm a big Hotspur fan, big Spurs fan, so I could talk about that forever, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm mentioning him because he actually was able to get exempt from the military because he won a gold medal. I think it was either at the Olympics or the Asian Games, and what the law says is if you do something really big in terms of national prestige for your country, you get exemption. So he won the gold medal and he was exempted. And I believe a few classical artists, classical musicians, have been exempt for winning first place in this like international music competition, something like that. But going back to BTS, as I mentioned before, there was no law made, no precedent, nothing has ever happened where a pop star has been exempted. People have tried to get out, of course. Like, that's obvious, and there's been a lot of legal trouble with that. A lot of big controversies with people trying to evade the military, specifically famous celebrities. So, BTS all of a sudden becomes extremely successful overseas, around the world, puts South Korea even more on the map. And people, of course, are talking about, they've done so much for this country. They've brought us so much national prestige and success and money. Like, don't you think they should be recognized for this? I mean, and they have been. For example, the president of South Korea gave them the Order of Cultural Merit, which is the most prestigious cultural award that you can receive in South Korea. I would say it's probably equivalent to, I wouldn't say like the Presidential Medal of Honor in this country, maybe more so like the Kennedy Center honors, if you've ever heard of that. They basically honor people like musicians and people in pop culture and TV and movies, stuff like that, in media for contributing to like American culture and stuff. So I would say the Order of Cultural Merit, is pretty much equivalent to that. And BTS received this, by the way, only 4 years into their career. Usually, South Koreans who get these awards get it well into their careers when they're much older. The fact that BTS were only maybe like in their early 20s when they got this is unprecedented. It just showed how successful they were in such a short amount of time and what they did. So they got the Order of Cultural Merit, a huge honor. But it didn't stop there. People thought that they shouldn't have to serve their country because of what they achieved. And of course, this has caused a lot of talk, a lot of controversy, unfortunately, when the BTS members the whole time really weren't involved in these talks. It's not like they were being greedy and they were also fighting to get exemption. No, none of that was going on. All they ever said was, when it's time to enlist, we will go in and we will serve our country. And that has been all they've said. And what I'm getting to is the main topic of today's video is Jin. Jin is the oldest member of BTS, and because of that, he would be the first one that would have to eventually enlist. And you can just imagine what people were asking him over the past several years. Basically, hey dude, are you going to enlist or not? Do you want to get exempted? When are you going in? And that poor man, he had to either just say it as it was, yeah, I'll go in when it's time, or he just had to deflect it. And of course, this affected the whole group. Imagine people talking over you about a decision that isn't even yours. And you have already said what you're going to do, but people don't even listen. And they're just using their own personal gain to talk about you and create conversations. And unfortunately, like I mentioned, controversy. So Jin had been bombarded with these questions for so many years. Unfortunately, when people would think about him, they'd think about the fact that he would have to be the first one who was going to enlist. And of course, like, is that going to happen? Should they get exemption? And it got even worse a few years later in 2020 when BTS released their most successful song to date, Dynamite. It really kind of blew. They were already really successful before Dynamite, but Dynamite was a game changer. For example, and went straight to number 1 on the Hot 100. No other Korean artist had ever managed to do that. It was a huge event. Everyone was going crazy over this. And when this happened, the talks about exemption got even worse. If you thought they were bad before, they got to a level that was unimaginable. Before this, it was kind of just like local people talking about this, like normal, your average folk talking. You know, it was like an online conversation. And then after Dynamite came out, it went straight to the government. Government officials were talking about this as to whether BTS should get exemption because of their success with this song. It was not great, to be honest. I mean, the fans obviously felt horrible about this, that we had to deal with this constantly, but I can't even imagine what the members were feeling like, specifically Jin. And this conversation kept going on. Whenever they would achieve something new, something really incredible for South Korea and for themselves, the government officials just kept talking about it. And it got to the point where it really went to a high level. I don't exactly know how high it went. I think literally the head of the Military Manpower Association was talking about this shit. It was wild. Finally, after all of this talk for years and years, Big Hit Music, which is the label of BTS, finally announced, this was, I think, at the end of 2022, that the members would be enlisting, that they would not get any exemption. They were just going to go right in. And Jin would be the first one to enlist at the end of this year because he was turning 30, which is the maximum age. Also, a little disclaimer, by the way. Usually, the age range for enlistment for men in South Korea is from the ages of 18 to 28. However, BTS were given a slight extension by 2 years. Basically, once they turned 28, they could postpone their service for another 2 years until they turned 30. That did happen. Like I said, it wasn't an exemption, it was a postponement of service. But that did not change the conversation whatsoever. People were still talking about exemption. But anyway, going back to this, Jin and especially Suga, which is the second oldest member, they were able to postpone their service for 2 years, so they were still able to do activities with BTS, make music, etc. But since Jin was about to turn 30, he was going to be the first one who enlisted. So in December of 2022, he went into the military, and it was a really bittersweet time. It was quite sad. To be honest, I don't really like to give my opinion about this because I don't live in South Korea. I am not a citizen. This is a law in the country, and I really shouldn't be the one to talk about it. That's not my place. But I really am not a big fan of mandatory military conscription. I have never been really doing something against your will because of that, because it's a law. Never have been a big fan, but I'm not going to talk about that too much. That's just my own opinion. It was definitely really bittersweet, but at the same time, a big weight was lifted off of everyone's shoulders because this had just been a constant thing surrounding BTS that should have never been a constant thing. It should have never really been a conversation at all, but and the fact that that was now over, Jin was just free to enlist for 18 months, and he would never have to deal with any of this talk again, was so relieving. And I'm thinking about it now. It was quite a crazy time. I absolutely hated it, but the fact that it kind of dispelled all that talk mostly was really, really nice to hear. So, for the past 18 months, Jin has been enlisted. We really haven't heard a lot from him. Usually when you're enlisted in the army, you're really busy. You're either training, doing other things with soldiers, all the above. I don't even know what they do over there, but he has been in the military for a pretty long time. Think about it. 1.5 years is a long time period, and we have desperately missed him. But guess what? It's currently June of 2024. It has been exactly 18 months since he enlisted. So guess what? He was just discharged. A week ago, Jin was officially discharged from the South Korean military, and he will never, ever have to serve again. I still can't believe it's real. I can't believe he's back. It feels like absolutely unreal. I remember I would think about this in the past, the fact that he'd have to go in, that they'd all have to go in, and just kind of the notion that it was so far away, that date where they'd be coming back, that it just felt like it would never happen. It felt like the day would never come where they return. But it's happened. He returned last Tuesday, local time. He was officially discharged, and he had a little cute thing where he said goodbye to all of his soldiers. They're now, a lot of them are his lifelong friends. He was crying with them. He was hugging with them. It was a really sweet and tender moment, and you don't really see that a lot in the military where people get that emotional, but he meant a lot to these soldiers. He was a senior to them. He was much older than the majority of these soldiers because most men enlist in their early 20s. He was much older than them. So he was definitely sort of a leader figure for them. A sort of like inspirational figure to them too. And he's just such a really nice person. It's hard not to gravitate towards him. And he definitely made a lot of amazing connections in the military. Am I happy he's out? Of course, but you can't deny the impact that he had on the soldiers while he was there at his base. It was really on full display, and it was really, really sweet to see, definitely. And then he basically comes out, I think his manager or something gives him a big bouquet of flowers. I was watching this on a live stream, by the way, and all of a sudden, you hear a saxophone, and I'm like, what is that? Is someone, from the military band, playing him, a cute song or something on the sax? And then you see the members of BTS come out one by one from their vans that are parked, and they all give him a big hug. And that saxophone was being played by one of the members, RM, aka Namjoon. Apparently, he's part of the military band. He's enlisted, by the way. They're all enlisted. All 7 members are currently in the military. other than Jin now. He is in the military band, so he comes out with a saxophone and he's playing Dynamite on the saxophone for Jin. It was a hilarious moment. I thought I was gonna cry from like happy tears. I was more so laughing. It was hilarious. All the members came to greet him besides Suga. I think he was in the car, but they met up later in the day. It was such an incredible moment. Like I said, I thought this day would never come, and it finally happened. And just seeing all the members hug him and seeing him like say hello to everyone again. The first thing he said, he literally called out the fans' name. He's like, "Hi, Army!" Like, it really felt so emotional. And his return from the military is, like I said, it's such a momentous occasion for the fans and BTS. And his comeback really singles a return to normalcy and the resurgence of excitement and energy within the group and himself. Because this whole time, he didn't really put out a lot of content. He put out one song before he went in, but he wasn't able to really do anything while you're in the military. You can't release new music. You can release pre-recorded content, but you can't release anything new, and he probably hated that. He wanted to be on stage performing. He wanted to be making music. To be honest, yes, he did enjoy his experience with the other soldiers, but if he could choose, he really would not be there. I don't think any of them want to be there. And for BTS as a whole, it means the reunion for their family, both on and off stage. And then Jin has like always been a cornerstone for the group, so he provides a lot of strength and stability. He's not the leader of the group, RM is, but that doesn't diminish his importance. He is the oldest member of the group, and in South Korean culture, age is a big deal. Elders really have a big role in every single aspect of life. And not just that, like I have mentioned before, he's such a good person. He has such an uplifting personality. He's a very carefree person, and he can affect a lot of people for the greater good. And the BTS members have mentioned just how important he is to the group. And a lot of times he undermines that himself, but I really hope he knows just how important he is for the stability of his members. And it's so heartwarming to see him back. And I'm really looking forward to, what he's going to do next. And speaking of what he's going to do next, you'd probably think the day that he comes out of the military, he's gonna, visit his friends and family. He's going to have a nice, peaceful time. No, he doesn't do that. Being Jin, he literally organized a whole event for his fans. And by the way, this date that he came back on June 12th. It wasn't a coincidence. He planned it out perfectly. June 12th, June 13th just happens to be the anniversary date for BTS's debut. They debuted it on that date back in 2013. It just so happens that he was exempt basically the exact same time as their anniversary. And because of that, he really wanted to spend the anniversary with the fans. As a year ago, he couldn't do that on their anniversary. He was still serving. So he decided to organize this huge event at BTS's anniversary party. It's usually a thing that they do every year where a ton of fans go to this place, and there's a lot of events that happen that are surrounding BTS's anniversary. Jin decided to organize an event where, get this, he wanted to hug 1,000 fans. You're probably thinking, what? Hugging 1,000 fans? That's crazy. And let's just say this, he originally wanted to hug more fans. I'm not even kidding. So right after he got out of the military, he went straight back to the company and he started a live stream. He wasted no time. He's like, I need to talk to the fans right now. We've been apart for way too long. I need to talk to them because I miss them so much. So anyway, he goes on the live stream and he was talking about how he organized the whole anniversary event. And he talks about how he just wanted to get to the fans, like, personally, and in a respectful way, obviously. Initially, I think the company suggested, you could do like a fan call that BTS and other artists have done, where you kind of just do a live stream. It's not in person, and you just kind of like meet the fans, or even if it were to be in person, they'd have like a high touch event where he'd be sitting at a table and he would just kind of like high five fans and stuff. He's like, no, not only do I want it to be in person and I want to hug fans, and I want it to be like 3,000 fans. And the company is like, Jin, I don't really think we could do that. Like, is that even possible for like safety reasons and just everything else? Like, that, how is that going to work? But Jin, if you know him, he loves to get his way. He argued with them for months. And there was a lot of negotiations that were made. It wasn't his original plan, but he was able to still get this event where he was going to hug 1,000 fans. And the way it would work is that you'd enter a raffle by buying albums. And if you won the raffle, you would get to go to hug him. And am I jealous? Yeah, I still am. I wish I won. But, you know, because of circumstances, it just was never going to happen. First of all, I'm not an official member of the fan club. That's a paid membership. I don't have that right now. I can't afford that. Number two, I'd have to fly all the way to South Korea on short notice if I won. That's if I won. The likelihood of me winning out of probably 1 million people that submitted themselves into the raffle would be absolutely insane. It just wasn't going to happen. There's no way. But besides the point, he was able to organize this event where he hugged 1,000 fans. Like, what? And he did it. And it actually only took an hour. People were saying it was going to take forever. I think they were just really efficient. He was just able to hug people, like, pretty quickly. I think they just kind of... I've seen videos where they kind of just, like, put people in a line, and you're only allowed to hug them for maybe, like, 2 seconds max. But it was a really sweet event. Besides one little moment that happened I'm not going to get into, one fan kind of got a little bit too close for comfort, and people were not too happy with that. Even Jin looked a little discomforted by it. But other than that, it was a really nice event. And then he also had like a mini concert. It was like a separate event that happened later that day where he performed a lot of songs for the first time. I love how he literally says before this, like, guys, I haven't sung and danced for 18 months. I probably forgot how to do it. That man lied. His voice is still incredible as always. He was still belting at high notes like it was nothing. I really think that he truly underestimates himself a lot. But it was just such a sweet, emotional moment. He clearly looked like he was so relieved to be back with the fans. Like, and he even said, like, this is my home. This is where I belong. I belong on stage singing to you guys and performing for you guys. It was like I said, it was an incredible moment. I really got emotional while watching this on the live stream. It means so much. Like, for the fans especially, seeing Jin back is just a heartwarming reminder of his unwavering bond with us, with the group, and how this is where he's truly meant to be, like he said himself. He is meant to be a performer, a musician, and an artist. And it was incredible. I'm like literally like freaking out. I'm like thinking about it. It still does not feel real that he's back. It really doesn't. I'm just so used to him being away for the longest time. And now all of a sudden he is free from the military and he's here for us. And for the rest of his life, this is the biggest point I'm going to make. For the rest of his life, he does not have to worry at all about people talking over him for his own personal decisions. He does not have to hear all the bullshit that the government has to say, trying to make a decision for him whether he's gonna be exempt or not. None of that. It's done. It's over. It's over for him, and that must feel incredible. I can't even imagine what he's feeling. I'm not him, but I just know that he probably feels so relieved and so thankful that that whole period of the conversation that he couldn't even control the narrative of is over. He is free for the rest of his life to do whatever he wants. And it's the same thing that goes for the other members. They are all also enlisted in the military, as I mentioned before. They enlisted basically at different times, like right after Jin, J-Hope, another member, enlisted a few months later, then another member, Suga, enlisted, and then the remaining 4 members, they enlisted back this past December. So J-Hope is coming back in October, and the rest of the members are coming back in June. And I'm telling you, a year from now, when they all come back, it's going to feel magical. This moment felt magical, but when that happens, when they're all back, it is going to be quite a spectacular event. And this was already a huge event. Like, Jin literally went viral online. Like, non-fans were talking about him all the time. They were using references from their own fandoms to kind of compare it to how important this was. That this, like Jin, like, getting discharged basically is as important as this event in this TV show, as this character coming back from the dead, like, stuff like that. Like, people were having a lot of fun with it. And it's so... I'm sorry, I'm freaking out here. I'm stuttering. I'm pausing, like I said, but it just means so much. And I think, just on one more personal note about this, his return feels incredibly meaningful, and as a longtime fan, and as someone who has followed BTS's journey very closely, seeing Jin complete his service and return to music and return to the group is a reminder of his resilience and dedication to what he does. And it's a testament to how much BTS values their responsibilities and their fans. And his return reignites a sense of excitement and anticipation for what's next. Obviously, like I said, he did the little event, but he's definitely releasing new music soon. And he could do whatever the heck he wants. And that just means so much for me. The fact that you can overcome all of that, serve as best as you can, and come out being a stronger, more intelligent individual, but at the same time, nothing has changed about him. He is still the same Jin that we all love, and I think that means a lot to me. The fact that I can do the same thing in my life, that I can overcome things that I feel like are impossible to escape, and go into things with the strongest heart, the strongest mind, as best as I can, and just kind of hang out, wait it out. It's possible. Jin showed that it's possible, and the rest of the members are showing that it's possible, and I think that's a really inspiring thing to see. And wow, it's really been quite the incredible past few days. A lot has happened. I'm just incredibly so glad that he's back. I can't even believe I'm saying that. He is back. He is back in all of his glory, and it is just wonderful. And I don't even know what else to say. Well, I do have some other things to say with BTS. A thing that I truly admire about them is how meticulous they are in planning out this whole enlistment process. Usually when K-pop idols enlist in the military, they kind of just go in, they're there for a while, come out, they really don't do anything. BTS, however, has been changing the game. Right before they had to go in, the members pre-recorded a ton of content, whether that's music, whether that's videos, anything, right before they went in. And I really commend them for this. They did a ton of work. If I were them, to be honest, right before I'd go into the military, I'd want a little break. I'd want a little breather before going in, because the military is a big deal. It's a total different change of pace from your normal life. And the fact that right up until the end, they kept producing things so that when they were gone, they would still have content for us fans to enjoy, because, they'd be gone for a while and they still wanted to remain active in music, even if they couldn't even be there in person. And you're probably wondering, is that even allowed? Can you still release music while you're in the military? As I mentioned, this was pre-recorded content. This content was made before they went into the military. It is allowed. You are not allowed to release stuff while you're serving. You are not a normal citizen. You belong to the military. You're kind of property of the military. And there's a lot of pretty extensive laws stating that you can't be on film, you can't be on video, you can't do anything outside of your military occupation. Like, you can't go back to your job. That's with anything. Even if you're not a singer, you're just kind of like a normal person with like an office job, you can't go back to your office job. That's not allowed. So they can't do that, but the fact that they did have pre-recorded content, that's fine that they release it then. A lot of people didn't know that, and they were kind of questioning BTS about like, is that allowed? I don't like that. I feel like that's not okay. Why didn't my idols do this? Well, your idols didn't do it because they didn't think of it. They didn't plan. They just kind of went in. BTS are smart. They are very smart with their careers. That's one of the reasons why they're so successful. They're very intelligent when it comes to planning things out in advance, and it works out perfectly. Even Jin, who didn't really pre-record a lot of music, he had like one song before he went in called The Astronaut. Highly recommend it. It was actually made with the band Coldplay. It's such a lovely song. Please listen to it. Anyway, I just had to plug that in. He didn't record any music to be released during his enlistment, but he still had some pre-recorded video messages. He made literally 17 videos of himself that were to be released for the consecutive next 17 months of him saying hi to fans. He didn't have to do that. He could have just went in with nothing, and he still decided to do that. And other than him, members have been releasing music that they recorded right before they went in. Back in February or March, I believe, V, who's one of the members, released a single. J-Hope released an album in March or April. I'm sorry, I'm getting the dates wrong, but he released an album like early this year. In May, RM, another member, released a whole album, and it was literally just announced today, at the time I'm recording this, that Jimin is releasing an album in July that he recorded over a year ago, but he planned it to be released like around now. And I bet there's going to be tons of other content. Oh yes, Jungkook, another member, he released a song for the group's anniversary. There's going to be a lot coming down the line. I bet Suga, another member who hasn't released anything yet during his enlistment, he probably has something planned. He's got to have something planned. I just love how they plan in advance for this, and I think it's going to change things. I think idols, when they go into the military, are now going to be releasing content. I think that's just going to be the norm. I mean, BTS has changed things, and people have followed in their footsteps. It's true. And I think it just makes the enlistment period a little bit more tolerable. It makes the time pass way more quickly, and it allows BTS, even though they are technically on a pause of their careers, it still allows them to get content out there, keep people invested in them, and keep their artistic craft up. I think it's just excellent that they have done this so far, and I think more people should follow suit. It's not copying, it's inspiration. So that has been incredible. Even though BTS has technically been on hiatus since 2022, they haven't done any really official group activities, they have really been dedicated to making music and releasing content as much as they can because they're dedicated to each other and the fans. And I think that brings me to the last thing. The 7 members of BTS truly have such a special bond with each other. I really haven't seen it too much, especially among celebrities. Like I said, I don't know them personally. I don't really know them in real life, but from what I can see, from what they express, from what they show, their bond is so precious. It's family-like, and it's beyond family-like, and honestly, I think they're more family-like with each other, maybe even with their own families. They've mentioned this. And they are dedicated to staying as a group together for as long as they can. And even if that includes solo stuff, that's fine. There should be a balance, I believe, with group activities and solo stuff. But in order to stay a group for a long time, that's why they started their solo careers and took a break. They really had to find themselves in order to come back for a group. Because for the past 10 years before that, they had just been doing only group activities mostly. And I think that their whole plan for what they call their second chapter is to do the solo activities, spend a lot of time apart, and when they come together, their bond will be even stronger. You've heard the expression, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I think this is a perfect example for this, and it isn't truer than every single member that has gone into the military or has gotten discharged now. all 7 members in some capacity have been there to either say goodbye to them or greet them. And if that tells you anything, they are so dedicated to each other. And a moment that happened this past week that really made me so emotional, because we really don't see the 7 of them together around this time. We haven't seen the 7 of them together in quite a while. Very occasionally, they posted a picture of each other at Jin's live stream when he came back, and they looked so happy to be back together as 7, because they're all serving in different places. They haven't seen each other in a while. They're so used to before this, they were so used to seeing each other constantly through group activities, and they really do miss that. And just seeing them together in that picture, and along with another picture, they took a selfie together. They all looked very natural. They had no makeup on. They were all barefaced, and they looked so comfy with each other, so relaxed, and so happy that the 7 of them were together. It's such a special bond. I don't even know if I'm explaining it well. I usually don't explain things well, but they are truly dedicated to each other. They want to continue as a group for as long as they can, and I totally commend them for that. It's not too common that a group, especially a K-pop group, for them to stay together for this long. And it's kind of a running theme. After military service, a lot of groups, they disband or they don't come back together. It's been a common thing, as I mentioned, but I think BTS are breaking that rule. They're defying odds. They will always defy the odds. That is the one thing that they have done throughout their entire career. They have defied every single odd placed against them. They will continue to do things that people do not expect out of them and change things for the better. And the 7 of them, whether it's them as a group, them as solo artists, they will continue doing some really special stuff. And that is one of the reasons why I love them dearly. I really do. It's been... Wow, it's been an amazing week to be a BTS fan. If you're a BTS fan, I bet you're probably pretty happy right now with all of these amazing events happening. It's a wonderful time in Army Land, let's just say. And with that, I think that's going to conclude this episode. I have talked for a little bit too long about BTS and Jin, but let's be real. If I wanted to, I could do a whole ass TED Talk for hours and hours talking about BTS. But you don't want to hear me do that. That would be so boring. You'd turn this thing off immediately. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I don't know when I'm going to be posting the next episode. If I make a schedule for myself, if I'm like, oh, you have to do this, and do this, then, I don't think I'm going to do it. I'm not a type A person. Let's just say I kind of just do things at the whim a lot. So whenever I come back. I hope it's not almost a year again. Like I said, I apologize for that. But I'll be back whenever an idea sparks in my mind for another episode. That's usually how it happens. And I think I'll probably be back a little sooner. I have a bit more time on my hands right now. So let's just hope it isn't as long as the last time. But stay tuned for some more episodes to come. Your support means the world to me. I would love for you to give this podcast a like if you're listening to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even, I'm probably going to post this on YouTube, I think. I'm not 100% sure. If this is going on YouTube, please give this video a like. And, of course, subscribe to my channel. The usual YouTuber talk. Like and subscribe. I'm so cringe. But thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, stay safe and have a great day.